The topic of today's talk is climate change and why it is important for us to think about it and to take mitigative actions. The ecological systems, the ecological products and services that we basically see today and the nature that we seek benefit from, it basically took nature around 4.5 billion years to create this wonder. It was around 4.5 billion years ago when Earth started solidifying. The presence of greenhouse gases is an important factor when it comes to nature. It is basically these gases that makes life possible on Earth because they makes it possible that Earth neither becomes too cold, neither it becomes too warm, so that life would have the perfect conditions that it requires to sustain and thrive on Earth. During the second phase of industrial revolution that took around 1850, we started to rely on fossil fuels for the sake of economic productivity and for the sake of transportation. Due to the continuous and unsustainable reliance on fossil fuels and burning of the fossil fuels, the concentration of these greenhouse gases has increased rapidly into our atmosphere. As a result of these increased concentration, the global average temperature was around 0.9 degrees Celsius higher in year 2017, according to NASA, than it used to be before in the recorded human history. This increase in concentration of greenhouse gases and a consequent increase in the global average temperature has led to a phenomenon called climate change, where basically the climate across the globe has started to change. As a result of climate change, the ice cap of Greenland has started to melt. Greenland now loses around 286 gigatons of ice on per annum basis, and collectively it has lost 3,777 gigatons of ice since 2002. So it's the case with Antarctica, that now loses around 127 gigatons of ice mass on per annum basis. Collectively, it has lost around 1,870 gigatons of ice mass since 2002. Arctic has also experienced one of the lowest ice caps or lowest sea ice in year 2012 than it has ever experienced in its recorded human history. According to the data provided by World Bank, the negative impacts of climate change would force an additional 100 million people into poverty by 2030, and the negative impacts of the natural disasters due to extreme events like, for example, hurricanes and extreme rainfall events now causes around a financial loss of $520 billion on annual basis to economies across the globe. The question that arises at this point is what we can do to mitigate this on an individual level. When it comes to an individual level, we can choose to use clean energy. We can choose to power our houses through electricity that has been produced through clean sources of power production. For example, solar, for example, hydropower, for example, wind power, for example, biomass. We can certainly choose to buy electricity from clean companies that produces electricity from clean sources of power production. When we would choose to do this, this would certainly increase the confidence of the clean companies that would then keep on producing more power from the clean sources, and it will also certainly increase or enhance the confidence of government, which would also choose to invest more and more money into this sector as well. We can also choose to use public transport that would help us in reducing our carbon footprint on per annum basis. When it comes to country-wise level, Iceland and Denmark are two good examples to study in this regard. It was basically the oil crisis of 1973 that forced Denmark to explore alternate sources of power production. Denmark installed its first wind turbine in year 1979 and kept on improving the technology. In year 2017, Denmark generated around 43.4% of its electricity from wind turbines. In year 2015, the financial sector of wind turbine, or the industrial sector of wind energy technology, generated around a revenue of 88 billion Danish kroner, where 48 billion Danish kroner was particularly generated through the export of wind energy technology to countries across the globe. So it's the case with Iceland when it comes to clean power production. It was basically the oil crisis of 1970s that forced Iceland to develop hydropower and geothermal sources of power production. It kept on improving the technology and expanding it within the geological or geographical limits of Iceland. As a result, the country of Iceland now produces around 25% of its electricity from geothermal sources and the rest of the electricity from hydropower. So the point of this talk is every reality was once a dream. So was the case with clean energy technologies prior to 1970. But due to the dedicated efforts of policymakers across the globe and countries across the globe, the role of clean sources of power production has certainly increased. And if we would keep on developing the technology and if we would keep on investing money into this sector, the role would certainly increase up to a point where we would certainly be able to produce all of our electricity demand across the globe through clean sources of power production to mitigate climate change. The power lies in an individual human being and as well as in the business sector and the government, because this is a sort of complex issue that requires dedicated effort from government, from business sector, and from us as individuals. So hope has all the powers. Hope is basically the factor that has transformed dream into realities, and certainly hope is the case that would certainly allow us to achieve a future where we would produce all of our energy demand through clean sources of power production. Thank you for your time and attention.